What's up, guys? Welcome back to another one of our domain reviews here for Birthright, finishing up the West Coast, and this is the actual last one in the West Coast series, or the domains of the West Coast series here. And this one is, or are the sources of Harald Khorien, who is a ruler of a political domain as well. We'll get into that in a second. A little background blurb there. Mages of the West fiercely protect their domains from incursion. These tough wizards really know their magic. So Khorien is listed as neutral good here, recommended, so certainly you can play as him here. And really, though, if you're choosing to run this, you're essentially, you should also be running Tagas, the country. And that being said here, so his Khorien's, his holdings extend through Tagas and into Avenel, and as you can see, they're quite extensive here. You have at least a couple of level 6 sources there, and then a whole lot of other mid-level sources, and a couple low ones too, mainly just because those provinces are extremely well settled. But basically, you have pretty much Avenel and your own territory sort of fully developed there. Now, that being said, course, with the political situation of Taeghas, you have sort of lots of things going on. So Avenel kind of dominating and influencing you strongly on the political side there. You have Borrowing as a neighbor, the Rove Manslayer as well, and then sort of the machinations of Brosengay as well. So you're in an interesting spot there, which doesn't necessarily directly affect your sources as far as like rivals go, but nonetheless, you politically, it's just a very tense situation. Again, go back and check our video on Tagas just to get some more thoughts on that. However, on the specific Mage side here, so Regency generated 47, and you've got 50 accumulated as far as the Regency points. Already a treasury of 15 gold here, gold bars, so pretty solid there for casting whatever realm magic you might need. And then here, the Regent, again, your description, so only a level 4 wizard, so at some point would certainly, I think, behoove you to find some ways to level him up, just to develop his own magic, but then also just be sort of on a stronger standing with Avenel himself. Very solid bloodline though, so he's a strong wizard. Again, keep in mind in this setting, true wizards are pretty rare, so whereas typically we might see level 4 is fairly low to mid, here it's already kind of rare. But that being said, there are certainly many higher level wizards out there. So in that sense, again, getting him leveled up a little bit would certainly do well for you in many different areas. So I would say, certainly getting to like 6 or 7, which shouldn't really take you too long, depending on what you try to get yourself into. But that certainly, again, would help. And as it says here, he's a strong wizard, not much of a ruler. Many different factors that go into that. Again, go back and see our video on Tagas, the country specifically. So he pays homage to Avenel in exchange for control over that domain's magic. And in that sense, down the road, that could be a bargaining chip a little bit for you. You don't want to necessarily give Avenel any kind of hint that you might be double crossing or in some way be a liability or an enemy. Again, there's really not much that's going to stand in the way of Avenel just running over you completely and taking over the country. Like literally taking over the country, not just kind of ruling in your stead. And really, even Borrowing's not going to stand up too long there, or wouldn't necessarily even bother intervening in you, or intervening in the conflict that much. Certainly not necessarily for your sake, more just to keep Avenel from his actual border. Anyway, though, the peaks of the Sea Mist Mountains and the trees of the land pass their ancient power to Khorien, who uses his strength to protect his territorial holdings as well as those of Darien Avon. Again, go back earlier in our series and just take a look at the way the West Coast is located there. And again, especially there's some adventuring opportunity there in the Sea Mist Mountains, so as long as that stays relatively undeveloped, those should continue to be strong source holdings for you. Really, as far as expanding your holdings source-wise, down the road someday, if it came to pass that Rove Manslayer was eliminated, certainly that territory would be amazing for taking over and getting source built in there. But depending on what happens in a campaign and who all you're playing with and what style of campaign, certainly, Brosengay could essentially be eliminated at some point, which would give you a couple more provinces as far as potential magical holdings there. But really, I think there's other opportunities to expand further into the Heartlands and be a little bit careful there, just of other things going on. Again, we have our series on the Heartlands domains coming up here next, but just nonetheless, I think there's more opportunity there, and kind of using Avenel as sort of the threat of maybe if anybody tries to resist your advances or expansions in the wizardly domain, you can kind of have Avenel flex his political might and influence in different ways there. But again, in many ways, the Heartlands as well is like a powder keg waiting to blow up there. So some of the other domains here, real briefly. So our Torel Anveras is basically the mage for Telenier, and again with their relationship with Borrowing, so that's going to be a tough one to ever get into, and also pretty far from you, at least initially. So, and really, as long as Borrowing goes nowhere, there's really no reason for you to even think about getting into Telenier as far as expanding your sources. Arlen Innes in Borrowing, again, sort of court mage there. There might be some potential ways to influence or agitate there, but again, if Borrowing catches wind of that somehow, that could cause issues. So I think really just working through Avenel and again building up into the Heartlands would be the way to go there. But then, like I said, depending on what happens in the campaign and all that, finding a way to work into Brosengay potentially would be valuable, I think. There's other areas potentially, if you wanted to go across sort of the body of water into Mures, although there are some wizardly things going on there. We've seen that the governor of Mures does also kind of work nominally with a wizard there, so that might be biting off a little bit too much for you initially. So again, coming back, just to summarize, a lot of your development and success will really depend on sort of fixing some of the major issues politically with Taeghas, and just finding out if you really want to continue to be Avenel's lackey in that sense and let him run your country for you, or really sort of changing your tune a little bit, stepping up and taking a little bit more active role in your country, which you could run through maybe more trusted lieutenants that aren't necessarily directly in the pay of Avenel. And I think a lot of that really, again, comes down to building yourself up as a wizard a little bit more and gaining more renown that way. Level 4 in the setting, again, is not bad, but certainly there are many much more experienced wizards, and if you really want to be in those upper echelons, I think that's really a route to go. Now, recently someone had suggested, hadn't really thought of this, but getting yourself leveled up and then potentially sort of working on rebuilding or getting yourself into sort of the Imperial City and the sort of the College of Sorcery there. I think that could be another way of gaining some prestige and influence and access to other wizardly things that you might need. And again, I think the pathway through that really also lies through Avenel. So hope you guys enjoyed our little look through here. Again, Harald Khorien here for running the sources as far as Tagas is concerned. And leave us a comment if you have run Tagas and or Khorien specifically for on the wizard side. Successes, failures, challenges, all that stuff. Let us know in the comments, guys. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you in the next one as we move into the Heartlands.